Much of British airspace could close tomorrow because of Iceland's volcanic ash cloud. The government is warning it'll be the UK's busiest airport that will be worst hit. Ed Miliband will challenge his brother and run for the leadership of the Labour Party. Violence continues on the streets of Bangkok as the crisis in Thailand deepens. And an easy win for Dundee United gives them their first Scottish Cup final trophy in 16 years. A very good evening. Air passengers are being warned that parts of British airspace may have to close tomorrow if a cloud of volcanic ash from Iceland heads further south. The Department for Transport has warned it could affect air travel until Tuesday. Joe Lynam is at Heathrow for us this evening. Joe.
Yeah, good evening and welcome to a warm and sunny Heathrow Airport. Europe's busiest airport could become a very quiet place tomorrow or the day after, especially if the wind changes.
Just when you thought it was safe to take to the skies again, the ash is back. The latest forecasts from the Met Office and the Department for Transport seem to suggest that parts of the UK, including the very busy southeast, are likely to be closed between Sunday and Tuesday. If so, it would heap even more misery on weary passengers, thousands of whom took days to get back from the last ash shutdown. That grounded 100,000 flights around Europe, stranding 8 million passengers and costing the airlines £1.3 billion, money they want back from taxpayers.
Mr. Hammond, can you please?
And this is the man who will ultimately be making the decision on whether it's safe to fly. The new Transport Secretary, Phil Hammond, alongside the Civil Aviation Authority. Many accused them of being overcautious last time in grounding planes. So now passengers, airlines and the entire new government will all hope that they are judicious this time. We may not even be at the halfway mark yet, but already 2010 is proving to be a year many will want to forget.
Joe, with volcanic ash and BA strikes, not a great time for air travellers.
No, there's not, but there's a little bit of movement behind the scenes on the BA strike. We know on Monday that the Conciliation Service, ACAS, will be chairing talks between both opposing sides. Before that, the Transport Secretary, Phil Hammond, a lot on his plate these days, he'll be meeting both sides independently to get an assessment. And then there's the legal action. BA's lawyers are taking action in the High Court also on Monday. They want to take out an injunction to prevent the strike. They say that the balloting procedure wasn't right and proper, and it should be done again. The union, of course, denies that vehemently. So for BA passengers, it's a case of if the ash doesn't get you, perhaps the strike might.
Joe, thank you. Joe Lynam at Heathrow there. Thailand's Prime Minister says the army will press on with its operation to end an anti-government protest in the centre of Bangkok. At least 22 people have been killed since clashes began there 3 days ago. Alistair Leithead reports.
Welcome to Bangkok, what tourists call the land of smiles. But there's a lot of unhappiness in this country, and for another day it was pouring out on the streets of the capital. The troops are trying to break up anti-government protests, which have already lasted weeks, firing shotgun pellets at anyone who came too close. They're just a few hundred meters apart. A short but dangerous dash down the main highway, the mob were not being deterred. Using what they had to take on the army.
It's amazing how chaotic it's become down here. The protesters setting fire to tyres, provoking the military. We're just a short distance away. Those are bangers going off, but the military have been shooting at the protesters here. It shows just how deeply divided Thailand's become.
This anger's been simmering for years. A hatred from the poor against the rich, stirred up by a corrupt former Prime Minister. Passers-by are getting caught up in it. They suspect snipers. The army called this street a live fire zone.
They're shooting sniper from the on top this hotel, and 3 people die.
There have been more deaths and injuries today in isolated flashpoints, but the Prime Minister said his troops were defending themselves. The protesters still hold the city centre. Trying to move them with force could slip this country further into chaos. Alistair Leithead, BBC News, Bangkok.
The former Energy Secretary Ed Miliband has confirmed that he will stand for the leadership of the Labour Party. His decision pits him against his older brother David, the former Foreign Secretary. Here's our political correspondent, Reeta Chakrabarti.
Hi, Sandra.
Smiles and a handshake as Ed Miliband arrived to announce that he was the second Miliband to throw his hat into the ring for the Labour leadership.
My message to the British people is we will learn from our mistakes. We will be part of your values again. We will be part of your community again.
He criticised aspects of the government to which he had belonged. It had misjudged on immigration and lost trust catastrophically over Iraq. Older brother David made his leadership announcement 3 days ago, surrounded by supporters.
There's now a vacancy for the leadership of the Labour Party, and there will be an election for that post. I will be a candidate in that election.
David Miliband is thought to be the front runner. Aged 44, he was Foreign Secretary in the last government and is a former advisor to Tony Blair. Brother Ed went to the same Oxford College and took the same degree. He's 40, a former cabinet minister and used to be advisor to Gordon Brown.
You do my usual when you're ready.
Will another Gordon Brown ally stop this race from being purely a family affair? Ed Balls, out in his constituency today, would only say that he wanted to talk to voters first.
The fact is, you've got to listen, and you've got to hear what the people here are saying. It can't be us debating internally and then talking to the country. You've got to listen to the country, hear what they're saying, understand why they didn't think we were always on their side. That's the only way to make sure we're ready whenever the election comes.
Other possible contenders are Andy Burnham, the former Health Secretary, and John Cruddas, a left-wing backbencher. A potentially wide field. At least the Miliband's mother knows who she's supporting.
That her candidate for the Labour leadership will be John Cruddas.
Reeta Chakrabarti, BBC News.
A woman has been charged with the attempted murder of Labour MP Stephen Timms. Roshanara Chowdhury stabbed Mr Timms during a constituency meeting in East London yesterday. He's said to be recovering well following surgery. The 21-year-old will appear before magistrates on Monday. The Ulster Unionist leader, Sir Reg MP, has announced he's to stand down within the next few months. His party failed to win any seats in the general election. Making the announcement after a meeting of his party's executive, Sir Reg said he would be working to help the party develop a new strategy. Google has apologised after admitting that cars taking pictures for its 3D mapping service have accidentally been collecting personal data sent over unsecured wireless networks. The company says the mistake happened in Britain and more than 30 other countries over a 4-year period. Maddy Savage has the story.
Google's been zooming in on towns and cities across the UK. Now it seems it's zoomed in even closer than it planned. The company's admitted collecting personal data about people's home computers.